Good evening. I'll call the regular meeting agenda of the Charter Revision Commission to order. Please take the roll call, Mr. Clerk.
All right. Commissioner Borup.
Here.
Commissioner Minor.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Capello.
Here.
Commissioner Harpy.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now move to the public participation agenda of our meeting, and I'd call on Mr. Woods
If you want.
and Mr. Talico. And they are here in reference to the composition of the Parks and Rec Board, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Whoever wants to go first.
Start off with, we pulled the Park Rec Board 2 weeks ago.
I pardon, please, your name and address for the record.
Jay Vitalico, 37 Valley View Drive, Newington, Connecticut.
Thank you, Jay.
Don Woods, 82 Ivy Lane, Newington.
Okay,
Go ahead, Jay.
I'm the chairman and Don is the vice chair. 2 weeks ago, we polled our board because we originally asked for a charter revision to the makeup of the Park and Rec Board, which was 11. Okay, during polling, everybody seemed to go along with the 7 with a 4-3 majority and 2 alternates from each party. That was what everyone discussed. Don, you want to throw anything in there?
Well, yes. So let me just give you a little bit of history. The board has been 11-member board forever. I've been on the board over 30 years. We've never had any issues with quorums. The past few years, we have developed a problem with quorum. So the 11-member board, you need 6 people to meet. We were having difficulty meeting that 6 people for the quorum. So we started to discuss what the options are. And the options are make the board smaller in general. And we talked several times about 7-member board. That would give us a 4-member
Majority.
well, a quorum. We could make a quorum with 4 people. Then we started thinking about the reality of 7 members. We rely on members to participate in all of our events. So we kept going back to the 11-person commission. Then we came up with the idea, let's have a 7-member board. We would prefer majority party 4, minority party 3, and then 2 alternates from majority, 2 alternates from minority. I don't know if that would fly with the politicians in general, but just again, I don't know if James ever had a chance to look, but for a good chunk of my time on the board, it was always 6-5. Majority party was 6, minority party was 5. So as far as setting a precedent, I don't think we're really setting one. But it seems to be better when the board is more balanced than a 5-2. We want the board to remain in the charter. I think it's important that the board stays in the commission stays in the charter, so that in the event things change, there will always be a Parks and Recreation Commission. I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. 11 members have worked unbelievably well for years and years and years. It's only that wrinkle of probably what, 3 years, Jay? 3 years ago?
Yeah.
3 years that when the quorum became difficult. And I'm not blaming anybody. It's just life gets in the way of these meetings, and there's pros and cons to us having a 7-member board and 2 alternates. Will the alternates show? I don't know. They can come to the meeting, but will they participate if they're not actually voting? I don't know. So I guess our recommendation would be in a perfect world, we would like 11 members. We would like to have a consistent quorum with 7 commissioners, 4 or 3. If that doesn't, 2 alternates, majority and minority. If that doesn't work, I say go back to the 11-member board, and we'll try to move forward. I don't know what else to say.
The only thing I would like to throw in there, Joe, is that the alternates really bother me. I agree with Don. We'll be able to get them to the meetings, especially if they can't vote. What's the interest in being on the board? And, I've seen that in the TPC where a lot of alternates don't show up because they can't vote. Or else they're called and say, yeah, you're gonna vote tonight because we're gonna appoint you. And like Don says, a lot of these members actually work extravaganza and other functions that the Park and Rec put on. And volunteerism is just terrible lately. No one, they got other things to do. But the bottom line is, if you don't change it to that, what we asked, I say leave it alone,
Yeah, I think the board keeps going back and forth. I mean, there is no easy answer, quite frankly. We want the board to remain viable. We want to make sure that there's always a Parks and Rec Commission. We do a lot of good things for the town. The board is not political, not one little bit. So if there's any fears of, because I mean, everybody takes turns. We could be a majority, you could be a majority. There's no, even in the worst political times, we don't fight. We don't fight over issues. We basically always agree. There might be 1 or 2 that don't, but again, we usually come together and stay as a commission and move forward. You saw the effectiveness of the board during the town hall.
Right.
It was usually unanimous opinions and decisions. We've been a great board. I am proud to be on that board. This is my last term. I'm not doing it for me. I'm done after this time, but I do want the board to continue. It's important to me. So I know we're just making suggestions. I know it's going to go to the council, but if you don't like our compromise position, or if council doesn't like our compromise position, I would say keep it as is.
Yeah, leave it alone.
If it were constituted to stay at 11, though, how would you overcome the lack of, I guess what drove all of this, right, was the quorum issue, correct?
Right.
Basically.
Well, Joe, we were lucky. We got a lot of the problems solved. And we got a lot of board members, and now
They've
been showing up.
Yeah. I think there was a conversation amongst groups
Right.
to make sure that if you're going to be on the board, you should come to the meeting. I mean, anyone can miss a meeting, no question about it.
Right.
But that's what started this whole thing. And to Jay's point, volunteerism is not what it once was.
Right.
It's easy to say, yes, I'll take the seat, but then you got the commitment once a month and whatever else occurs,
Yeah.
through events. And we have a lot of events, we have a lot of events where we need help. And the reason why the board is relied upon is because we don't get paid. If we have to hire 11 members or whatever, 11 volunteers, they don't volunteer. Well, some do, but the majority get paid. So, I don't know, like I said, it shouldn't be considered political. I'm not making a political statement. I don't care that I'm in the minority or the majority. I just want the board to continue to do the work that it's done for over 30 years.
And saying it's not political because we polled everybody to get everybody's input. And it's basically, we all agree.
Can
You know, and if the council doesn't feel like a 7-member with 2 alternates is viable,
Well, before
leave it
alternates.
alone. Yeah.
Before alternates.
Yeah.
you
4
do
alternates.
everything that you've been doing with 7 members?
We can meet for sure.
Okay.
Because we've always been able to get 4 or 5 people.
Getting people to work.
It's getting people to do 7 people would be a stretch during the
Yeah.
extravaganza or the waterfall festival. Again, under the assumption that
Yeah.
all members participate. In the past, they have, and, maybe they'll bring their husband or they'll bring their wife or whatever it is.
Well, we're sensitive to your issue because we've heard this
Oh,
from
yeah.
other committees and commissions that there's attendance issues, and the council's looking at this, I know, very seriously, and it seems it might not be a palatable resolution is to shrink these commissions, excuse me, and committees in terms of numbers of members, only because there's not another viable alternative. More people volunteer, which doesn't seem to be the case. And we have one commission here this evening that I believe, if I understood the conversation correctly, hasn't had a quorum in almost a year.
Wow. Thank God we were never that
That's
bad.
untenable for them, and I'm sure, I know the mayor is sensitive to it as well, so we're trying to work out some recommendations. So we hear you and we appreciate your input. Are there any commissioners that have questions of Mr. Patalico or Mr. Wood? Okay, any other closing comments you'd like to? Mayor, did you have anything? Did you wanna?
I apologize. I had another meeting that I was in, so I'll have to replay the comments later to see kind of what you're.
Sure. No, I just, like I said, the commission serves a very, very important job in the town. And the point I want to stress the most is we are not a political group. We've never been. In all the years that I've been on the board, it's never been political. It's always been what's right for the town. And obviously in the board's opinion, but it's what's right for the town. And I think our results speak for themselves. We've done a lot of good things.
Well, the commissioner will assure you that your comments will be noted in our report to the council when we are at that stage to request the town clerk to send it up, our recommendations to the council for their consideration, and the council will have a public hearing to see what the public feels, and they have a right to move forward, obviously, on the recommendations that we made, or reject one or two or all and send them back to us for a reevaluation. So we're getting to near the July date that we're required to turn this in. So we will, you have my word as chairman and the commissions, I would say as well, that we'll footnote your comments and make sure that the council's aware of your input.
That's all we can ask. I'm sure it'll be fair. However it works out, it works out. But,
Our goal is to make it work.
Yeah.
And when we make recommendations, the council expects it to be a resolution of an issue, not create another problem through a recommendation.
Sure.
That's not what they're asking us to do. So I think I appreciate and respect both of you very much. And thank you for your time.
Okay.
Thank
And
you, Joe.
if you should have any questions, you can certainly ask me or Jay. I'd be happy to talk to anybody. Okay. Thanks a lot. Good evening.
Thank you.
Go on.
Yeah. And address, please.
Sure. I'm Jamie Trevathan. I'm a Newington resident. I reside at 19 Foster Street in Newington, but I'm actually here because I'm the director of the Newington Senior and Disabled Center. I want to say that before I was the director of the center, I was a town employee for 15 years prior. And as a town employee, I had the opportunity to work on the 2007 and 2012 charter revision processes. So I understand how this process works, and also understand that you folks are volunteers who have a very thankless job, and appreciate your time and effort that you've put into this, both as a town employee and as a town resident. So thank you. I'm actually here for a similar reason to Mr. Batalico and Mr. Woods, but I'm coming from the perspective of a town department head, in that I would like to discuss what I sent the memo about yesterday, which is the membership of the Commission on Aging and Disabled. The Commission on Aging and Disabled is the body that oversees the operations of the Senior and Disabled Center. They are an appointed board of 9 members. Similar to most boards and commissions, they are appointed by the town council. However, like the Board of Parks and Rec, they are a completely apolitical board. Their duties are to generally, similar to how the town council sets the general tone and direction for the town staff, our commission sets the general tone and direction for the senior center. But they also have specific duties such as to set membership requirements and fees or waive them as such it may be. They actually have to approve purchases that we make that are over $500, which is a minuscule amount when you start to have to buy things that you need to operate on a day-to-day basis. They're also involved in our volunteer honoring, which is an important part of our center. As alluded to prior, we have not had a quorum for our commission in 13 months. We have had 4 active members for 13 months straight. They're not the same 4 members because some folks' terms fell off and some came on, but we have not been able to meet or operate in 13 months. Prior to that, there was, as far as I've been involved, there have never been 9 members appointed to our commission, and there have been intermittent issues with having a quorum. So I apologize for coming to you this late in the process. I know you've been meeting for several months.
No, that's fine.
We've been trying to problem solve this, every month, and kind of just had an epiphany like, oh, the charter revision's going on now. So why don't we see if we can address this in the charter? Each month when our commission meeting is canceled, as it was actually supposed to have been tonight, with 13th in a row canceled, I write a report and I send a detailed report of all of our operations. And I send it to the 4 commissioners that we have active on the board. I send it to our 2 town council liaisons. And along with that report, I kind of send a plea saying, please, we need somebody to be appointed to this commission. The town clerk has been very helpful in trying to help us find solutions and also listening to my constant complaining about a lack of quorum. The town manager is aware. But what happens when this commission doesn't meet, not only can we not do these things that I outlined in the memo, but we lose a critical line of communication to the town council and to the public. And our department serves anybody over the age of 55 in Newington and any adult over the age of 18 in Newington. And that's almost over a third of our population. So now for over a year, despite our monthly pleas for help, we have lost that line of communication. And of course, we operate fine without the commission, but it's become an issue now where it is moving forward, really starting to prevent us from moving forward as a department and growing.
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
How do you work around that issue in terms of your own ability to well, you tell me.
Well, we had to, so I've only been the director since January. Prior to me being the director, I worked at the senior center for several years, but Diane Stone was the director. While the center was closed due to COVID for numerous months, we did remote and that stuff, but our actual building was closed. We were able to delay a lot of purchases. We also decided to just honor all volunteers and not do a volunteer of the year. More recently, I've had discussions with the town manager and the town finance director because we are at the point where we need this extra help to be able to operate. We have to send out our membership renewals. We have a lot of decisions to make, and they're helping us to work around that. But really, the proper way to do it is to go through an appointed commission. So like I said, we were trying to problem solve how we're going to operate without this commission with all our 4 active members. And we said, okay, we'll go to the Charter Revision Commission. I just want to see, I don't want to miss anything here. I do other volunteer things outside of work. And so with the things I'm involved with volunteerism, both outside of work and inside of work, it occurred to us that, volunteerism is down in general quite a bit. So then I thought, well, let me do some research. So I started looking up some studies about volunteerism in the United States and found the numbers to back that up. This problem has been going on for more than just the 13 months that we haven't had a quorum. And it appears that it's going to be something that isn't going to go away anytime soon. So we want to start to look for sustainable solutions to get these volunteers and retain these volunteers and make sure that they want to help us with our mission, to serve older adults in the town. So it's been an issue for a while now, and there's all indications that it's probably going to be a long-term issue. So there's a couple of possible solutions that I would like to request for this commission to consider and suggest to the town council if you should so choose. One would be to bring the number of commissioners from 9 to 7, as indicated in the memo. What's different from what Mr. Batalco and Mr. Woods just said is that I think we can operate very well with 7. We can also operate with a quorum of 4 if we find ourselves with that minimum quorum, as long as they are volunteers who are well qualified and dedicated. Had we had a 7-member commission rather than a 9-member commission, we would have had a quorum for the past 13 months. We would not have had an issue. Now, I understand the concerns, and just as an aside too, we are not looking or asking for any kind of alternates or to change the political makeup of the commission, just a straight 9 to 7. I understand the concerns of making such a change in the charter, being that that's a document that you don't open very often. So another consideration that I would ask, if you don't wish to do that, would be to look at section section C608 of the charter, which is the Commission on Aging and Disabled. We certainly don't want to remove that commission from existence, but perhaps remove the language of 9 members. And at some point, without the membership requirements listed, the town council may consider maybe perhaps amending ordinance chapter 109, which oversees the Senior and Disabled Center services, and to see if they want to put the membership requirements in there, because an ordinance has its own process, but it's certainly easier to change should our circumstances change sometime in the future, and maybe volunteerism increases and we have people who are knocking down the door to join our board. It's easier to change an ordinance or consider changing an ordinance than it would be to wait for the next charter change, whenever that may be. So that's all I have. I want to thank you for your consideration. And I hope that we could help, find a solution.
We appreciate your input, and you can take confidence in the fact that the commission will note your comments and your possible resolution by shrinkage of the membership,
Thank you.
so that you can get the quorums that you need. So, do you have any comments?
No, my question was, we're seeing everywhere are struggling with getting volunteers. Would you have any suggestions to maybe bring more people to come and volunteer?
Do you mean for the commission or just in general?
Just in general.
We are struggling. Our center, realize or has about 75 to 100 volunteers. They're not all here every day, but throughout the year, some only work very specific jobs, some are here often. So we do as much outreach as possible. We are constantly reminding volunteers that we need some help, membership that we need some help. We're doing outreach to the general public. We do outreach. We have a lot of partners in the community, the various nursing homes, assisted living centers, healthcare providers, and they reach out to their networks too. So it's all about networking. But I'm also involved with a couple of groups in Newington outside of this. So the Soccer Club of Newington, which is where I'm supposed to be tonight, and the Newington Children's Theater. And we are experiencing same thing. Very, very difficult to get volunteers. So I wish there was an easy solution, but find one, I'll let you know.
Well, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we will note your comments
Okay.
in our
thank you.
final recommendation.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nice seeing you. Any other commission comments? Mayor, did you have any comments?
Just wanted to thank Jamie. I know it's super difficult when we're not getting quorums and we're hearing it. I know we've heard about your commission, but we've heard from a number that are struggling with it, maybe not quite as long-term or as consistently as you have been, but definitely need to look at it. And I appreciate your consideration for not just the charter language, but perhaps looking at the ordinance piece for membership, because as you mentioned, that does allow an easier process, still quite a lengthy process to make a change. It doesn't make it easy, but certainly much easier than a charter revision. So I like that idea. And when the commission makes their recommendations to the council, I'll certainly echo what you said today for your recommendations also.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Discussion of items charged for review by the town council. We've gone through these a number of times, each of our meetings. I'm sorry? Oh, I asked before, but nobody said anything. Any other comments from commissioners, by commissioners? Okay, thank you. All right, well, we have a charter summary sheet of recommended actions for revision that you each hopefully have in your possession. Um, But I'd be happy to review it again for members of the public who perhaps might be tuning in the first time with us. There were 13 items that the council had asked us to review, and then we added a couple of other items which we term as non-charter, non-council charges. There are things that came up during our discussion. One in particular of the non-council charged items was the Development Commission. And after looking at statute, there's a great deal of language and ability for that commission to do a lot more and to be more productive based on statutory language, which allows them to be. And we reviewed that several times. It has to do with a lot of recommendations, some marketing, and some other issues that they could bring to light with an annual report to the council. So the adoption of those items would require that, well, first of all, the development commissions have a right to some funding, and I guess that would be worked out with the town manager. So they would have some exclusive funds to spend on the research they do. Not repetitive research, but research in support of what, well, let's take example of the town manager working through his office and through TPZ developing businesses, but a more centralized framework of that would be through the Development Commission just by their charge. So I have heard comments from members on the commission that there doesn't seem to be a lot that they're doing presently. Not that they don't want to do it, but this statutory language, which other towns that I called, and they utilize it and have put it into their charter, is very helpful in terms of defining economic alternatives within the government itself. And an annual report, which I think would be important to the commission, of which the Development Commission would go to each of the support groups, the chambers of commerce, CBIA, all of these outreach groups, and then consolidate information as it pertains to Newington and what Newington should do and what it maybe shouldn't be doing on economic development. So I think it would be a management tool for the council as well. And that was one of the other issues outstanding. The other non-charge council item dealt with the town manager residency requirement. And Commissioner Minor had requested some outside information on that through agencies that provide that. And the town clerk has gotten that information. I don't know if that information got out to Mr. Minor separately. Okay, well, then I will read that to Mr. Minor and to the commission as a whole. And this is a situation where it's not geared towards a specific manager or managers throughout the state, but based on some of the input that we got from the chief of police and from the town planner as to their feelings about it, not only as it applied to their positions, because the council did ask us to review it for their positions. By the way, they both live in town, so wouldn't have made an application to them. But standing back from that issue, excuse me, I'm going to have to call you back. I'm in the middle of a meeting. Thank you. I apologize for that. But standing back from the fact that they live here and they look at it objectively, they see it as a detrimental process of expanding the labor pool. And other towns are trending to be more flexible on the issue. No one is saying that residency isn't an important goal to have, and in an ideal situation where you could match the most qualified candidate to the candidate that was prepared to live in town. And we know all the benefits of living in Newington, so that if they lived in town, that would be the perfect marriage. But we all know in the real world, when you go to interview, if there's a stumbling block like residency, that individual might stay where they are or go somewhere else. So this doesn't diminish the residency value that goes with all of that, but it's an opportunity for the council, in this case, when it looks at other people, wouldn't have to use that as a negotiating tool. In fact, residency in many of the towns that have it as part of the contract arrangement doesn't necessarily exist in their charter, becomes part of negotiation of the contract. So I apologize to Mr. Minor, Commissioner Minor, for not the intent. My intention was that he would have had time to review this, but and I'll give him time to review this. We'll get it over to him, but this was sent to Heather Shorty, who works here, and this is from the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities. Dear Heather, the following is in response to your request looking for whether any town has a residency requirement. I polled every town manager administrator. I have polled every town management and administrator and included those responses below. And this is from a Brian West, who is senior research analyst at Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, writing back to the town based on Commissioner Minor's request. I polled every town and have got the information below: Bolton, Canton, Columbia, Granby, Hebron, Simsbury, Tallinn, Winchester, Windsor. Those are all no's for the residency requirement. And then they want Cheshire, East Hampton, Glastonbury, Groton, Manchester, Mansfield, Meriden, Newington, Rocky Hill, Southington, South Windsor, Watertown, West Hartford, yes. In addition, Plainville, yes, but there's a 2-year grace period to move. Now, the other thing with Plainville is that they are, I don't know if they've concluded they're seeking a new town manager, and they have. I went on the website for the application and the call of the job, and they have in there that their council is actively pursuing to eliminate in the charter. I've never quite seen that in an application, but there it was nonetheless. Weathersfield, yes, but there's a 1-year grace period to move in. Of course, we have that as well, I believe, right? Farmington, yes, but after 15 years, they can move within a 10-mile radius. Now, Farmington's charter also allows the council to waive the residency requirement if they see the need to do so. Well, it's not here, but it's on their website. If anybody wants to do a data check, I would welcome them to do it. Avon, Clinton, Coventry, Cromwell, Enfield, and North Branford, yes, but can be waived by the council. And I would add Farmington to that. So they have it, but the council has the flexibility to open the door. Killingly, manager must live within 25 miles. Norwich, manager must, now this is a big number, but they're saying it's accurate. Norwich manager must live within 60 miles. There goes a rough winter's drive for somebody. We'll see how that would work out. I hope the information is helpful to you. This is Brian West speaking again. If we have any questions. And then he did a chart, and I will make certain that this gets, okay. We want to be able to get this to the full commission and over to Mr. Minor as well. Are there any questions on that information at this point? And I know it's not so cool not to have it in front of you to have it read, but I can assure you I read everything that was in front of me and didn't add anything. Who is it? Oh, you have it up there. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, he said the commissioners just received it in their email if they're able to access it.
Oh, they just got it in their email? Okay. Thank you very much, James. Ask and James will do.
Mr. Minor has his hand up.
Yes, Mr. Minor, Commissioner Minor.
Yeah, just wanted to ask James if that was just CCM member towns or if that was a statewide survey.
Statewide survey, he indicated anybody who was a town manager form. So they do have a listing showing the entire state in which each form of government is in each town. So I believe that was the statewide to match up to our same format.
All right. Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
Any other questions on that? And the other, the last item, as memory serves, was on the emergency ordinance that the council would set a time to have a public hearing within so many days. I don't recall how many days it was. Within 30 days after the announcement of the emergency, which I'm sure the council would do anyway. But it gives the public an opportunity to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly of how things are working out on the emergency side. And we all know after 61 days, the ordinance, the state of emergency is voided out anyway. But this would provide individuals with an opportunity to speak on it and give the council an opportunity to bring them up on the cost and any projected costs associated, God forbid, with such an emergency. But such is the world we live in. I'd be happy to go through these again. I'll try to summarize them because the council has seen the 13 and our response to those. There was a charge on requiring a 10-year time frame for review of the charter, which we don't have, or sooner if the council elected. And so the council made a recommendation that adopted mandate review for charter 10 years following the adoption of these amendments, and every 10 years thereafter, unless requested sooner by the council. And the council shall appoint a commission made up of 3 members from the then majority party and 2 members from the then minority party, which is the way it is today, whose duty it shall be to review the existing charter and make such recommendations as it may see fit for revision. The charter shall be amended in a manner prescribed by law. So for members of the public, that language doesn't exist in our charter now. Not that we haven't had charter reviews, but it just isn't a standard practice, and so now it will be. And hopefully will keep us current with everything going on. The next charge was a review of referendum limits. Right now, there's a number in there of 975,000. Anything in excess of that would be considered for a referendum or special meeting that the council would call to have the public vote on it. And the council was concerned that that's just a plug number that could be there for a very long time because the number before was 125,000. It was a 10-year spread between that 125 to this. And that's not a criticism, but I think from a cash management standpoint, from the finance department's end, it makes it a little more difficult. And the public would say, well, 975, what's the magic of that? So we're recommending what a number of towns went into is adding a percentage. And in this case, it would be 1.5%, 1.5% in excess, anything in excess of 1.50% of the general fund appropriations and expenditures in the current year. Now, as you know, the general fund is where most of the tax revenue is, property taxes, shared tax income with the state, excise taxes are all in there. So the bulk of the money that goes forward is off of that general fund. And so any appropriation that may come through bonding on a special appropriation would be separate from that, but this would be the mechanism, the metric for setting advances to get to the referendum issue. So this works out to close to 20 million. And 20 million seems like a lot, but when you see the high school roof was expensive and those kind of items, fire apparatus, and those kind of issues that come up. So, and in which the council feels the public should have comment perhaps beyond just regular meetings and to go to a vote for a referendum for those larger items. It also covers the same percentage, the 1.50 or less of the general fund for smaller appropriations that would be carried through ordinance. And the only thing we're changing here is taking the 975 out and setting a percentage metric, which a number of towns are doing against the general fund appropriations and expenditures. So people can trace the math of that, what's the basis of it. And it's not just throw the dart because somebody thinks 975 sounds better than $1 million. This is going to be a percentage, and you'll be able to equate it either way for the public's edification and for the financial. And by the way, we did preview this with the finance director early on, and she was encouraged us to do that in terms of setting a percentage. She just thought it would be an easier tool to manage. The next charge was a review of Parks and Rec. You did hear from Parks and Rec this evening. They stated what they wanted to do with that. I guess 7 is the number, and how you split that up between majority party and minority members is an issue that they were concerned about. Right now, to be honest, we have the recommended membership 7 with 5 majority, 2 minority. That's up for discussion at the council, or it could be up for discussion here, but that's the number presently. Council charge number 4, review the documents for ambiguous terms like shall and may. And now I went to a Harvard lawyer for this one, so you can blame him, not me. His research indicated that shall and may are 2 modal auxiliary verbs. Man, would I have flunked that literary test? I don't know what that, but both of those are, these verbs allow for permission or obligation to take action. So using that as the logic, those 2 terms are interchangeable. The town attorney hasn't given us an opinion on that, but statutory law provides them to be interchangeable. And that would be up to the council's discussion to kick that one around there. Could have a discussion on modal auxiliary verbs. And that's one of the easier ones for the member of the public listening. Charge number 5, review and clarify Article 9, personnel, specify control over the Board of Ed, and the who belongs to who. This is a situation that's been around for a number of years where non-certified personnel that are town employees do work for the Board of Education. And they can have a number of positions over there, whether in maintenance, bus drivers, or head of the buses in terms of transportation, those kinds of positions, cafeteria supervisor, all at one time, and maybe still are a number of them considered within the town employee range because they're non-certified. What's complicated this issue is that the state of Connecticut, I guess a few years ago, passed a certified position but non-teaching position. So it's a non-class oversight. They don't have any oversight to pupils or teach. They do other type of technical things like in the IT divisions of the school system, and they're certified, much like a teacher would be, but they're not certified to teach. And that one change has created a lot of consternation on the part of the town in terms of negotiation of salary, because their salaries are originally part of the non-certified. Benefits were originally all part of the non-certified. And then now they've become certified like teachers, but yet they're not certified to teach. exactly who sits down with them. And I understand from the administration, school administration, that they've had town officials sit in on negotiation of salaries and whatnot. But a lot of this was driven by a couple of unions, and it's a very complicated issue. At the recommendation of Commissioner Borat, I did strike some language. I attempted to strike some language in behalf of the commission that I had pulled from other towns on Kevin's request. And I thought that it might be something that would be workable in terms of working together on this. But then I got a telephone call from school administration, and their attorney thought that the drafting of that report, the way it was situated, would not go well. And I understand that both sides are still upset and would prefer to have someone else settle this matter in a different form. And I explained that to the commission, that we really can't make a recommendation in that area lest it would create some sort of imbalance in terms going forward in a legal situation. But we'd be happy to offer to the council again if there could be some resolution other than a legal situation, given the number of employees involved. It's a very technical matter with a long history. It goes back to Bill Ward and Ernie Perlini, of those of you who might remember those names. It's been kicking around a long time. Charge number 6, Town Council Organization meeting at 7 o'clock. Now the mayor's been beating me up over this now. I'm only kidding. So 7 o'clock it is. And the intent and purpose of the proposed revision is a recommendation change the meeting time to 7 p.m. in order to be consistent with meeting times of the council throughout the year. Thank you, James. Council charge number 8, review the language of C603 library trustees by the town. This was a charge the council thought that might be confusing language in there on the appointees. So the intent and purpose of the proposed recommendation, the charter presently states that the town and council make appointments over recommendations is correct. And the language to read, the council selects and appoints, and remove the word town, because the word town had been in there to appoint or remove. And we trust that will satisfy them. Council charge number 9, look at all the numbers in the charter related to amounts required for referendum bidding requirements, act and determine if appropriate. The commission decided that we didn't have a recommendation after discussion with the finance director, who we brought this up in front of. She was happy with the bid number. She didn't want to exceed the state bid number, which I think is 50,000 for smaller contracts. And her recommendation was that that process is moving along fine. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. And so we don't have a recommendation under that one. Initial, let's see, staggered terms for the council. We looked at that, and we had the registrar of voters in, and that seemed to be an unworkable situation because of the way the turnover is in that regard. Some members run for 4, others for 2. If you leave the process that we have now, what we understand from the towns that have it, you have to start from ground zero and go, everybody runs for 4. And then you have succession dates that you have to have in the charter, way beyond any life expectancy of the people writing the change. We're a select number of a 9-member council. X number would run for 2 years, and I think it's the 4 would run for 4 years, and they would flip back and forth between those numbers for terms. So some people would enjoy a 4-year term and then go back to a 2-year term, and the 2-year terms would go back to a 4-year term. We couldn't find any tremendous demonstrated evidence to the commission that that made for better government. We do understand that it gives more consistency and makes it better probably for the individuals having to run. But when we got into the process of the execution of it here, the registrar really didn't think the resources at this particular time, especially given the fact that there's few people who volunteer to be at the polls or even get paid and show up to be at the polls, is quite staggering. So we're holding off on that recommendation. Of course, we'd come back and look at it if the council wants us to, but right now, I think that's just not going to work. We did review the residency requirement for the chief of police and for the town planner. And the current charter has no residency requirement for these two positions. However, both of them individuals lived in town, as I stated before, and they both spoke eloquently, I think, in opposition to residency for those positions that they're in, as well as extending that to higher administration levels. I mentioned this earlier, the emergency one, which is a non-council review, and I won't go over that again with you. The right to referendum ordinance, we cleaned up all the language because there were so many dates that the town clerk had to run and meet certain dates. And the language in there here is pretty much what most towns are using. A lot of it borrowed from statutory requirement. It's just so much easier. We did, and I don't know how people will feel about this, the correction of total language petition for enactment of ordinances, we took from 5% to 10%. That seems to be the standard, and that's based, I would assume, on population increases, because the other number was a 10-year-old number. The 5% was a 10-year-old number. So we're not making it more or less difficult for people to do it. It's just more standard in terms of where we are on a modern level of operation. And the last one that we reviewed that is a charge is the audit committee. Having an audit committee, I understand there is a resolution in place now that some of that effort's being undertaken, but this would more codify it by creating an audit committee that would work with the town, the finance director, and the town manager, but would have an early look in what would go into the RFP for when the new hires come up every 2 years, every 3 years, whatever it is, that you would go out in the market and look for another auditing firm. That's one of the key components of this recommendation. And that these individuals on the audit committee would review what's going into that, much like we did with the building committee. You're going to want to have an RFP go out. Every committee member at that time had an input. Under two chairmen, they had the same input in terms of what they wanted to see in that, and that worked pretty well for us. Well, so would the audit commission. They would have an opportunity to reflect what they thought should be in the RFP, make those recommendations to the council in concert with the town manager and the finance director, who would both serve as non-voting members on such an audit commission, and some other housework that they would do along with that in terms of making recommendations. And then the Development Commission, Commissioner Capella, did you have some comments on that?
I'll just read this.
Okay.
Okay. Yep, the recommendation for the non-council charge Development Commission. Recommendation is to add CT Gen Stat 7136, language duties and powers of a DC. The commission shall conduct research into economic conditions and trends in its municipality regarding actions to improve its economic condition and development. Shall seek to coordinate the activities and cooperate with unofficial bodies, organized to promote such developments, and may advertise and may prepare, print, and distribute pamphlets and other media, which it's in its judgment will further its official purposes. The commission shall annually prepare and transmit to the legislative body of its town a report of the commission's activities and its recommendations for improving such economic conditions and development.
Any comments on that? Give me one moment, please. Excuse me.
Yeah, hopefully we can vote on this tonight.
Do you have anything else?
No, hopefully we can vote on this tonight.
Okay. So there you have the 13 items and then the 3 additional items. We need to take a vote on these tonight so that we can prepare to provide a draft over the course of the next few weeks through a meeting to the council. And I'd like to start off with a vote on the 13 items. And I'd like to entertain a motion that we adopt this initial draft. This is a draft, by the way, so we're not married, you know, we're not tied in where we can't do something at any stage along the way. But I'd like to entertain a motion where we vote to adopt the initial draft report language on the 13 item charges that I just reviewed for the council. I need a second to that.
I second.
Okay. Let's take a roll call, Mr. Any discussion on the motion? You take a roll call?
Are you planning on doing each question or are
We're
you
gonna do
doing,
them all.
you're gonna do a full vote off of the proposed language? Certainly.
This is on the, as the motion was made on the 13th.
I do have one hand up at this time, Counselor Minor.
Yes.
Commissioner Minor.
Commissioner Minor.
Yeah, Joe, my only reservation is just without an opportunity to review the residency findings, that's my only apprehension. I
I'm
don't know.
sorry, you faded out, Chris. Would you please repeat that? I couldn't
I
hear.
said my only reservation is to the residency issue because I haven't had an opportunity to review what was sent over from CCM.
No, I understand. Okay.
But
Fair
as
enough.
a draft, I just want to get that on the record that we'll go ahead
All
and
right.
send it as is.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so this will be not on the non-charge items. This will be on the charge items, which the manager's position is not included. Only the residency of the chief of police and that. So as we read through these items this evening, much of what is a repeat of what we've had over the last several weeks. We're going to vote on the motion to adopt the 13 items as recommended in the draft report under that language. Now, of any concern here is the town attorney's obligation to review these things, which he's agreed to do, obviously, in this process. So if there's any hiccups in terms of statutory bumps, those items will be brought to our attention. So this is not a literary piece. This is really kind of a grammatical, mechanical instrument of sorts. And that's the way this is going to appear right through till it gets to the charter. And I'm sure you all know now, although our charter is a beautiful document, it's not a literary piece, it's a technical matter. And that's what's going to be reflected here. And I don't think there's anything in these 13, I'm convinced, that hurts the public in any way. In fact, I think we've made some enhancements with the suggestion that the council made about the audit committee. And I think we've made enhancements to the development commission as well in terms of the functionality of retention and development of businesses in the town of Newington. So I don't see, and I think to the complement of the commission members, I think coming up with the percentage on, rather than a flat dollar amount, especially where the finance director was, in support of, is a rare thing to happen and and we've invited staff in, I think, to every meeting for their input. So nobody got blindsided at any step of the way. If they have, I haven't heard from them. But I think you can all agree that volunteerism seems to be a real Achilles heel. And hopefully it stays at an Achilles heel degree and doesn't get bigger for us in other towns. But anyway, call for a roll call on 13.
Commissioner Bora.
Just, sorry, we're not seeing, I guess, the specific language. We're just seeing the charges.
Oh, what do you have up there? I thought, yeah.
Go back to the draft. Do you want to go back through each of the charges again?
Just quickly, so I could refresh my memory, if you just go spend about
Sure.
10 seconds on each one, that'd be great.
You let me know when.
Sure.
These are the ones I read, by the way.
Yeah. Go to charge 2 real quick. Great. Charge 3. Okay. All right. Charge 4. Charge 5. Charge 6. Charge 7. Charge 8. Charge 9. Charge 10. Okay, charge 11. Okay, charge 12. Okay. All right.
Oh, you had a non-council review one in there. That threw me off.
Yeah, I know, that 3 in there, sorry.
All right, so we'll ignore that first, that slide in between. That was charge 12. Here's charge 13 on the auditor.
And that's it, right? Charge 13?
Correct.
All right. All right, thanks. No, I appreciate that quick review.
No problem.
Chris has his hand up.
I think he
Okay,
still has it up
I'm
from
gonna,
before.
I've got to move the vote along.
All right.
You had discussion period.
Sure.
You know, we're going for a vote, so we
Got
gotta.
it. So aye is my vote. Yes.
Okay.
Commissioner Capello,
Aye. Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Harpy.
Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, now we will turn to the non-charge commission items. And
To review
can you
409
put
again.
can you put those up or?
You want to go back to 409 first? I know it was in our slides previously, but you had it mixed in. That is the emergency ordinance language.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 409, which is the emergency ordinance recommendation, add language that the town council shall, if possible, within 30 days of the emergency declaration, hold a public meeting. I'm doing this without glasses, so keep track.
You've got
For
it.
the purpose of updating the public. Either I have that or I have a wonderful memory on the status of the emergency as well as money spent since the declaration, and if possible, the projected cost of the emergency. Intent and purpose, provide the residents with an opportunity to communicate directly, if possible, with the council and emergency management. Any comment on that before we go for a vote? please make them now.
Commissioner Minor does have his hand up.
Mr.
I
Minor?
believe it's from before.
No, you
Commissioner
can lower
Warren?
it, James.
All
Lower it.
righty.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, no, he was all set.
Oh, you all set, Chris? Okay, so I'll entertain a motion on the non-charge item of the emergency ordinance as drafted here.
Sure, so moved.
Okay, second?
Sure,
Any
second.
discussion? Now would be the time to have a discussion, please. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Let's take a roll call again, please.
Certainly.
We're gonna take a roll. Sorry about that.
Commissioner Borup,
Yes.
Commissioner Capello,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
Yes.
Commissioner Harpy,
Yes,
unanimous.
okay. You want to pull up the next one? Or?
You have it in the back of your packet, sir. So if you need a closer view.
Yeah, without the glasses.
Great test. Okay, another item close to many hearts and not so close to others. Town manager of C501, the current charter language is the manager shall serve for an indefinite term at the pleasure of the council at the time of appointment. The manager need not be a resident of the town or state, but while in office shall reside within the town within a period of no more than 6 months from the first date of work as a manager with the possibility of an extension up to 6 months at the direction of the council. That language I took right from the charter. Would you go to the next? Whoa, you're really testing me now.
Oh, I didn't write this. There you go.
Let me pick it up here. Hold on a second.
Sorry. Let's try that for
Okay.
you. There you go, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you,
There you
sir. You're making me look bad here. I was doing so well. The non-council charge town manager C501, intent purpose of the proposed recommendation, the residency requirement for town manager be eliminated upon the passage of this recommended charter revision. The commission reviewed data on other municipalities and cities. And by the way, this doesn't include, I don't believe, the last update that we got from CCM that Commissioner Minor requested, but let me go through this anyway. The commission reviewed data on other municipalities and cities within the state and had undergone a reassessment of the residency requirement as applied to the town manager and other municipal employees. The town of Plainville is currently seeking to hire a new town manager. The following statement is noted on the job posting, and we quote, "The town charter of Plainville lists a residency requirement for the manager, but the town council will provide up to 2 years to meet this. In addition, they will be pursuing a charter revision, eliminating the requirement." The commission also received testimony from the police chief and town planner, who both expressed their opposition to a residency requirement during public participation. Former Mayor Rod Mortensen stated his opposition to a residency requirement for the town manager. You have another,
I do.
got to put the pen down.
Oh, no, I was blowing it up for you.
Oh. Findings, Avon and Farmington both have the town manager residency requirement. However, they modified the requirement to include a provision that their respective councils can waive said requirement should they decide to do so. In a more direct action, the town of Marlborough has recently eliminated the residency requirement for the town manager altogether. Commission also reviewed a survey of 15 towns and cities conducted by a state legislative fellow. This is a data report. I think this report is 5 to 6 years old or older. But this was supplemented, obviously, or replaced with the information that came in that Commissioner Minor wanted. But I'll read this anyway. The commission also reviewed a survey of 15 towns and cities conducted by state legislative fellow, which revealed that 14 of the towns surveyed do not require residency for firefighters, teachers, and other municipal workers. Town manager intent and purpose. On April 28th, the commission received testimony from two department heads, the chief of police, town planner. Both parties expressed their clear opposition to residency requirements centered in their shared conviction that such a requirement negatively impacts the pool of candidates. The position on residency was supported by the commissioner's review of a survey conducted by an independent source, which included 15 towns and cities across the state. The result of the survey determined the municipal residency requirements do not exist in 14 of 15 towns and cities surveyed. Now, I don't know if they include all town managers in that. They were talking firefighters, teachers, police officers. But they retain their right to do it for superintendents and town managers. I want to make that clear. Our research also found that several towns relaxing residency requirements. They include the town of Marlborough, having recently dropped their requirements specific to the town manager. Avon and Farmington, I know this is a repetition, but this is the way these things come into us. Avon and Farmington charters have a residency requirement for the town manager. However, their respective charters provide for the waiver of the requirement if they deem it to be appropriate. In the town of Plainville, which I mentioned, is working towards dropping theirs. So I apologize for the repetition, but they all come together.
Last paragraph.
Where am I with this? Their position residency was, let's see.
Last paragraph, finally.
Finally, based upon the inconsistency of Newington's residency policy and the information provided above, we recommend the exclusion of the residency requirement. Now, when I say the inconsistency, I'm saying that the superintendent of schools doesn't have it. I'm saying the chief of police doesn't have it. I'm saying the town planner doesn't have it. So there is an inconsistency in the policy. We want to correct the inconsistency. And that's the basis for the recommendation. Or give the council an opportunity to look at it. Again, all of the language, that's draft language, will be reviewed by the town attorney. And we'll make sure we're on the safe side of statutory obligations and whatnot. And he may want to clean up some language, which he probably wants to do, and James as well. I'm not offended. Any more discussion on that before we take the vote? I'll need a motion
I motion.
and a second.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, take the roll, please.
Commissioner Burrup,
Yes.
Commissioner Capello,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Minor,
No,
Commissioner Harpy.
Yes,
Motion carries.
good, thank you. Okay. Schedule a public hearing on draft report. You want to review that, James?
Certainly. With the commission finally approving language, we are moving into our draft report phase. At this point, prior to your submission to myself and my turnover to the council, you must hold one more public hearing to receive public comment on the draft report itself. If we were to, grab my book, we were to approve that today, I could have it in the paper for Friday. With a 5 clear day requirement, we could have our public hearing as early as June 9th.
Does anyone have a problem with the June 9th date if that happens? Any commissioner?
That's a Thursday, and that usually tends to work out better after 7 PM for the commissioners.
That would be a Thursday, and what time would that be?
We could do it at 7 PM.
Is there any way we can, well, that's okay.
Go ahead.
Is there any way we can expand the public's interest? I mean,
I think that's a loaded question.
I just,
We will make sure that it goes onto our
are
website.
some issues that the public, you know,
Yeah.
I know everybody's busy and
There's a concert here at Mill Park that day.
Fun on that night?
That's the country night, I
Yes.
think.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, parking will be an issue.
Yes, it will. Let's see, hold on one second.
Unless we carpool. I'm making you fit.
We had a lot of those going on.
I'll tell you though, we really gotta move this along, concert or no concert, unless people want to attend the concert. I mean, I think it'll be, a rather quick meeting. I just don't think we can be put, or any committee or member can be put at, at loggerheads for having a meeting because something, I just,
Membership wise, the commission wouldn't be able to do earlier, correct? There's constraints on members. I'm just thinking about parking. I don't know what time the concert starts, if it's 7 or if it's earlier. I'd have to look.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now. That was, day did I show that to you guys?
Maybe we had it in our
Was it
pocket.
on the 26th?
It's like 6 or 6:30 concert.
we could Uber in. That's what they do. The council in San Diego, California has. to
Right here.
Uber because
6 to
There's
10.
always something going on downtown.
Newington goes country, 6 to 10 on the night.
All right. When did you say? On the 9th?
Yes,
Okay,
Thursday the 9th. Yep.
it's up to you guys.
Mr.
I
Chair,
mean, go ahead.
yeah, Joe, just from the standpoint of trying to increase public participation, I know that week, 9, 10, 11, I believe there's activities scheduled those 3 dates that are expected to be largely attended. Just for information for your part.
Okay, thank you. What's the next date available? That doesn't,
We can make it at any point. I just have to make sure that we've advertised it with at least 5 clear days.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. So if we wanted to look into that following week, the 14th would not work, or the 15th. This room will be utilized by town council and TPC on those nights. But we could look at the 13th or the 16th as well.
well, I mean, it's regrettable because, I think the commission would like to move along,
Yep.
and they have other things they want to do with their lives and time, and I think, I compliment the commission. We've really moved a lot of material and information along very well, and I appreciate the cooperation. It's been great. Nobody's open to a Saturday. Well, I guess Saturdays wouldn't be any better, right?
That Saturday, that Saturday, the event
That's
is
Saturdays.
later.
Yeah, Motorcycle
It's
Madness is
4
in
to
the
8 in the
afternoon,
evening.
but we do have the shredding event at 9 to 12 during the morning as well.
Can we do the 7th?
No, it would be too soon. We wouldn't meet the
So-
5-day requirement. That's our next regular scheduled meeting
Yeah.
as well, but
The 9th is the soonest we can do.
that would be the earliest date to
Yep.
meet the 5 days, yes.
Yep.
Okay. Well, then I think we're gonna have to go to a date that's absent of, all activities.
Monday the
Awesome.
13th.
13th.
13th?
How do people
13th
feel
will
about
work.
Monday, the 13th?
13th
That
works
will-
for me.
That
Yeah,
works.
that should work.
Okay,
Okay.
what time? That would be 7?
That's up to you guys. If you want
That'll
to,
be here, right?
it will be here.
Okay,
And in the perfect world, we would schedule the public hearing and schedule a special meeting at the end of the public hearing to take action for submission,
okay,
unless there are additional questions or
Yeah.
comments that you want to integrate
Absolutely.
into it.
yep. Will you request that the town attorney and on behalf of the commission review
Oh,
the
yes.
draft? And then whatever he feels he has to straighten out for language?
Yeah. Oh, yes, he would be the first person it goes to after we've
And then
received it
that'll
prior to
come
going to
back to the
council.
commission.
Yeah, that wouldn't
They
have
have
to come
ample
back.
time to review
He's,
that.
he's going to give us basic
Okay.
language and statutory citations if necessary.
Okay. All right.
Are you gonna do 6:30 and 7 or 7 and 7:30? Because you have to do a public hearing and then a special meeting, you said, right?
Correct.
So you'd have to do 2 in a row.
So 7 would be what, too late to start? Or
If that was the earliest everyone's available, we could do the public hearing at 7
Yeah.
and the special meeting at the end of it, or we could say 8 o'clock.
you guys okay with, are the commissioners okay with the 7 o'clock time, or do you want to go earlier?
I'm wide open on Monday.
Okay.
6:30 or 7.
I'm back from vacation, so you're good.
All right, well, we'll leave it at 7 then.
I'll go with 7.
Yeah.
Just a question, how are you gonna post it in terms of 7 o'clock for public hearing and special meeting immediately following, or at a certain time? How do we?
I'm going to set it as a 7:30. So it's going to be public hearing at 7, special meeting at 7:30, or at the conclusion of the public hearing, but no earlier than 7:30. So we'd have a set time, but if our public hearing does go over, we'd meet the requirements.
So in other words, if we have it at 7 and there's no public input,
Be-
we adjourn and wait till 7:30 for the meeting to start, just so everybody understands. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Public participation? Oh, I'm sorry.
For that public hearing.
I need a motion for the public hearing for the 13th.
13th at
Of
7
June.
PM and a special meeting at 7:30.
Emotion.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Anthony?
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay.
Motion carries.
Okay. Public participation on agenda items.
Nobody else on with us at the moment, unless any commissioners.
Mayor, any comment? You'd like to
Just
make-
a quick thank you to the commission. I know you've worked really hard on this. There was a lot to consider. I appreciate that you took the time and consideration and did so much research behind the scenes to bring forward to everyone. And I look forward to the public hearing and hearing what everyone has to say. Thank you.
Any comments by commissioners? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved. We stand adjourned.
53.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night now.
Have a great night, everyone.